Computer. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Doctors Are In. This program is brought to you by It Takes a Village Ministry, and we are doing this in collaboration with Revival Health Partners and Sankofa Healing Enrichment. I have with me the phenomenal Dr. Thomas Lewis. Hey, Dr. Lewis, how are you doing?
Hey everybody, I'm obeying the speed limit. How's that?
All right. Yes, we don't want you to be naughty. We want you to be able to be with us for a long, long time. So
You see, I'm a thrifty guy when it comes to people's health and myself. So I'm driving a 2018 Camry hybrid, and right now I'm out 8 miles from my house, and I'm averaging 56.6 miles per gallon.
ooh, that is awesome.
Yep,
Wow. Huh.
and I'm not in a Prius.
Ah, I hear you. So we're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and get started. If anyone wants to get the ball rolling with any question, any particular question that you have, we're going to start with those of you who are here in person and live. Any question that you would like for us to respond to?
Dr. Michelle, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's actually maybe a combination of like from my past with my son, right? So, um, now as you all know, during my pregnancy, I was eating Cheerios, which we later found out is not good, right? Because it had the Roundup.
Okay, I need you to just zone in on the question because we got lots of people with us tonight.
Yes. So I just wanted to know like what damage was possibly done from me eating Cheerios during utero with the Roundup,
Mhm,
the Hep B shot,
mhm.
my flu shot, and the crowns that my son had in his teeth from birth. Well, no, from 3 years to 11. So just knowing all of that stuff that we know is like aluminum is in there, what else?
Mhm, mhm.
Was what damage was possibly done and how can it be reversed?
Okay, with regards to your son or yourself?
Probably both, yeah, because I
Okay,
got the flu
okay,
shot. Yeah,
no
maybe.
problem. I'm going to
Thanks
let
for
Dr.
adding that.
Lewis, I'm going to let Dr. Lewis jump in first. Dr. Lewis?
Well, my first question would be, what's the health status of your son? Is he doing well academically? Is he physically strong? What would be his compliance? Because glyphosate. Stephanie Seneff has done the most research on this, and glyphosate actually doesn't stay in the body that long. The biggest problem is we can have a continuous source of it, and it can cause neurological and other damage. So why don't you answer the question about how your son is doing as we speak?
Well, since he's homeschooled with limited resources, because I'm trying to get him into a co-op, but I mean he knows how to read and things like that. He's 12 years old, but it's just sometimes his focus. He has anxiety. He's sometimes he has difficulty focusing. So he's I noticed that even when he runs, like before he used to be able to run more with coordination, but now it's like his balance is a little off. These are the things I've noticed.
And these are, you said he's 11 or 12 years old, and these are relatively recent.
Yeah, he's 12.
Yeah. So in my opinion, these things that you had many, many years ago might have a little impact, but I think we really got to look at what's going on currently more than worrying about the past that we really can't do much about. I mean, with glyphosate and some of these other things, play detox, um, exercise to sweat things out, red light therapy or light therapy. These are the kinds of things you could do for detoxification. Fluoride's a big problem. There's a supplement or two out there that'll extract fluoride. But I think we don't want to look backwards anymore. We want to look forward and get an evaluation of what's going on in his life right now. Make sure he's getting iodine in his diet. Make sure he's getting magnesium. Make sure he's getting plenty of healthy fats, fish oil, cod liver oil, things like that. Really work on micronutrient and nutrient density, and see how he responds to that at this point.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you,
I like
Dr.
what you're
Lewis.
saying, Dr. Lewis, because one of the things that disturbs me about a lot of what I see in the quote unquote alternative world right now is that we have bought into fear mongering on the other side. And one of the
Right.
messages that I want you to get through you and everyone on this call is that you are divinely designed, okay? You are much more hardier and resilient than you could ever imagine. And
Right.
I think that God knew about how crazy humans would be, so I don't want you to underestimate the body's ability to always rebuild and to shift and to compensate for the craziness and the insanity of mankind, And as Dr. Lewis is saying, instead of focusing on all of the things that have happened in the past and the things that we don't have any control over, to focus on what you do have control over right now that could be impacting your son. So things like the coordination, the question that I would ask you is he involved in any kind of sports activities that is going to teach him coordination? That's, because coordination is something that can be developed, or you can lose it over time if you're not involved in any kind of extracurricular activities. Other things to consider is, something as simple as getting sunshine, going out and getting some fresh air, doing breathing exercises. I keep on sharing with people, it is so important to do breathing exercises.
Absolutely.
Some of the breathing exercises that you can teach him are things like Nadi Shuddhi, which is alternate nostril breathing. And alternate nostril breathing helps you to integrate the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. Also, something that you may want to look into is something called brain gym, BRAIN, gym, GYM. And these are exercises that are taught especially to autistic children and other types of children that have neurological issues that help to coordinate and synthesize the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. So for instance, one thing that you have is what's called the heart lockup, where if you put your hands out and you overlap them, right? And then you bring it into your heart center. So when you do that, that is going to integrate the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. And I encourage parents to teach their children something like this because it also helps to self-soothe. When you do this and you're able to help your child to learn how to slow down the breath, to breathe in slowly and to breathe out slowly. And as you train your child to do that, it'll help your child to also learn how to be able to clear away distractions, how to center him or herself to become more in contact with what he or she is feeling, and also to be able to clear away a lot of the crazy distortion thoughts that are going. And for a lot of our children, they're caught up in this realm of distractions. There's so much that they're processing, and so it's very important for us to train them to slow down the thought, to clear away the thought, and to be able to focus. Focus is something that can be trained. It's something that you can learn to improve your focus. And then also, as Dr. Lewis was saying, to consider your food sources, whether or not your food sources are high in things that will give your son magnesium, high in your B vitamins, that will also help with the neurological pathways in the body. So you're looking at your healthy whole grains. You're also looking at your dark green leafy vegetables with regards to things like magnesium. That's where you're going to get a lot of your magnesium sources. Okay.
Yep, and the B vitamins are generally orange in nature, squash and things of that nature.
And sweet potatoes.
Yes.
Thank you, Deb.
Sweet potato fries without frying. Bake those sweet potato fries and it tastes delicious. And we have Karen Osborne, who is one of our chefs, that she is part of our Fun Food Fridays. She comes on with us once a month. So you need to look up our YouTube channel for wonderful, healthy recipes with Dr. Naresh Chand for Ayurvedic cooking, and also Karen Osborne, our raw fusion chef. So awesome stuff.
So
Alrighty.
I forgot the exact name of this. It's Doctrines of something. And what the doctrines states is that the shape of the food is often related to the organ that it helps support.
Yeah.
So like walnuts and pecan look like the brain. And what walnuts and pecans have, a lot of minerals, a lot of healthy fats, a lot of fiber to support the gut. So it's an excellent snack. Even if we have to chocolate cover them to get a child to eat them, it's still better than, you know, eating a Snickers bar when you have that walnut or pecan on the inside.
Yeah, and it's called the law of signatures, Dr. Lewis. And it's where the color and the shapes of our different foods, and Carla just noted, like kidney beans are good for your kidneys, you know? So, and then you have like carrots. If you cut the carrot, it looks like the iris of the eyes, you know? So yes.
It's amazing, yeah.
It's
law
awesome.
Of signatures. Yep.
It'd be a fun project for your son to do, to talk about the law of signatures and looking at foods. Karen had a question.
Oh yeah, just if anybody knows any way to get blood to the meniscus to like heal the meniscus without surgery. Donna. I'm doing and I'm doing heat, and I'm about to get an ultrasound bone stimulator, but I'm going to put it on the meniscus.
So a red light and saunas. Dr. Lewis, I know that's one of your favorite things, red light and saunas.
Well, you know, actually, I like the full spectrum halogen light because, you know, we adapted by God's good grace under the sun. And so red light is just a piece of it. So, you know, I talk about red light a lot because it's very popular today, but guess what? I bet you in 10 years, people are going to be talking about orange light and yellow light and green light. So let's talk about all of them together, just, you know, full spectrum light. That's why I use a halogen lamp. But, you know, one of the best things for healing, especially deeper into the body, is pulsed electromagnetic frequency. This device called the MicroPulse A9. I've had really good results with structural injuries in the neck and other places with that device. And if it's that's a $500 device. If there's an affordability issue, I forget the name of the company, but very strong static magnets also have a very profound healing effect on the body. So that's, you know, you might have heard of microcurrent, NEMS and TEMS. It's actually FDA approved for healing and pain relief. But the problem with those devices is they don't penetrate deep into tissue. They kind of go where the electrical current kind of follows a path of least resistance on the surface. But PEMF and static magnets actually cause the same type of healing effect as NEMS and TEMS, but much deeper, but maybe more slowly than these other devices. But, you know, I use that device on my rotator cuff. I've had a number of people with orthopedic injuries that are deep, and this has done a great job. And, you know, I'm not saying that's the only thing you do, anti-inflammatory diet, and so on and so forth. And, you know, every cell membrane is what's called a phospholipid bilayer. So I always recommend people go high fat when they're trying to repair, and maybe take supplements like phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, which are contribute to the rebuilding of membranes.
And have you heard like any good things about EES, like in regards to that, something like this?
I'm not a big fan of that. I haven't really seen bona fide proof. I've had a lot of, whenever I see big dollar signs behind a new technology, I become very suspicious. Now, I have a very dear friend very close to my town that has like one of the biggest EES systems east of the Mississippi. And I've been there several times, and I'm just I've had a number of people go to these eats. I think it's more of a placebo effect at this point. So we're talking about, if I'm talking about the right thing, we're talking about scalar energy, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what?
I mean, it's hard to measure it. And, you know, Peter Atala says something very profound. He says, you know, any intervention that you use, if you cannot substantiate an outcome with a change in a physiological biomarker, then you must be suspicious. And I've never seen EE systems ever show me data that say C-reactive protein comes down, or you know, other markers. So I'm a little suspicious of it at this point. Whereas PEMF, magnetic therapy, been around for a long time, very inexpensive, well proven, just like the microcurrent devices are.
Okay. Thanks. I'll vote for that.
So Karen, what I'm going to do, and this is for everyone, I'm putting into the chat the link to our page for the Doctors Are In. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see information about Dr. Lewis and a way to contact him to follow up on what he's sharing with you, just so that you can get full clarification about what he just spoke about, just in case.
I mean, the best thing for healing is, you know, exosome or stem cell therapy that my partner David Harsfield does up in Little Rock, Arkansas. But that's you want to have insurance coverage for that. You know, when you look at a knee replacement or knee surgery versus stem cell exosome therapy, it's, you know, 30 cents on the dollar, but it's still around $10,000. So what I suggested are things that are substantially less expensive.
And we appreciate that. So you have a lot of different things. So we have the full spectrum light, or the halogen light, also things like red light, things also like sauna, also arnica, you know, to use that in terms of the homeopathy side of things, and all of the technologies, the magnetic technologies that Dr. Lewis was sharing with you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All righty. You guys, we've got lots of people on. Anyone can jump in, ask any question that you wish. Got lots of people. Come on. I know you guys came here to ask some questions. You have to unmute because we cannot hear you unless you unmute. So what I will do while some of you are kind of trying to gather your courage, I was blessed to be able to be a part of a health fair this past weekend, where we are encouraging people to go out and get their lab work done. And we have now made contact with an organization called Choose Healthy Life that is enabling people to get their lab work done, a preliminary lab work. It's not as comprehensive as I would like, but something is better than nothing. And to be able to do so for no charge. So if there are some of you on this call that would like to get their blood work done, at least a preliminary baseline, and you're strapped for cash, or you're, you know, struggling, reach out to me and I can share with you the information that will allow you to go to a Quest lab near you and get these labs done so that you can have this information. Anyway, so I was at this particular health fair, and there were some of the people who had already gotten their results back, and they were bringing the results to me. And one young lady, she had a very interesting set of labs. And in her labs, what was unusual that many people don't know, don't really consider, is that her cholesterol, instead of being high, her cholesterol was like 95, okay? And I would like for us to enter into a discussion, Dr. Lewis and I, to talk about what is so significant about cholesterol. Number one, I'd love Dr. Lewis to talk about the myth of cholesterol when it comes to high cholesterol and what we should really be concerned about, and the dangers of statins. So Dr. Lewis, I'm going to put the ball in your court for that one. I'm tossing you the hot potato.
Oh my goodness, I've written so much on this, and it's so frustrating because it's like shoveling against a tidal wave, not just the tide. But the point is, I will ask doctors, name me one other substance that our liver and our brain produces that is detrimental to our health, that's there to kill us. And no one can come up with a second molecule. But I'm very willing to share an article by Harvard Medical School called Cholesterol, Health, and the Brain. And what they say in that article is that cholesterol is one of the most important substances in our entire physiology, because it is a key constituent of the membrane of every cell, every single cell in our body. Okay. And so, we replace cells at an extraordinarily high rate. Now, here's a gross graphic. Why is our poop brown? Okay. And I'll tell you why our poop is brown. Is one main reason is we are shedding red blood cells every day. We completely replace our red blood cells every 4 months. And why isn't our poop red? Because our body is brilliant and it pulls the iron out to recycle it. And so a red blood cell with no iron in it turns brown. My point is, if you do not have the substance that helps rebuild these membranes, you're gonna start breaking down. The shingles are falling off the roof, the shutters are broken, the windows are cracked. This is a big problem. So what Harvard goes on to say is, not only does the cholesterol molecule help form membranes, but it's so important in their formation that it plays a key regulatory role in terms of what passes into and out of cells. So, I mean, why is medicine demonizing cholesterol? Because if you don't have cholesterol, you have all kinds of diseases of degradation. And that's a high profit proposition for the medical community. Sad to say.
So one of the things that I was sharing with people is that in this craze to lower our cholesterol, we're flipping over to the other side. This woman that I was talking with, she had very low cholesterol. And that is a concern, because your cholesterol, not only is it part of the membrane of all the different cells in your body, it is the building block of your hormonal system. So if you don't have sufficient cholesterol, you're going to have significant hormonal issues, and your hormones regulate practically everything in your body. So that is going to create significant problems overall. And even if we look on the flip side, one of the things that I loved about the research that Dr. Lewis has done, and he has a phenomenal chart that I keep trying to get from him about cholesterol levels and how it is not a predictor. Your high cholesterol levels are not a predictor of cardiovascular disease, but actually something else. So Dr. Lewis, I'm passing the hot potato to you again.
Well, all you're going to do is go on some search engine and type in Nature magazine, 12.8 million people and cholesterol, and you'll find a beautifully written paper that looked at cholesterol levels and all kinds of diseases, including dying young, based on total cholesterol levels. And the bottom line is, if you want to live the longest, particularly as you age, you want to have a cholesterol level of between 240 and 265 the older you get. 240 and 265.
Now, I know that's mind-boggling for most of the people here, because
it is
that your doctors are telling you if your cholesterol is over 200, you need a statin. And the research isn't exactly backing that up. Now, the profit margin for these drug companies is definitely backing that up, but in terms of looking at the research, not so much. And the other thing to consider, as Dr. Lewis was saying, is that instead of being so obsessed with quote unquote cholesterol, to look at what we call oxidation in the body, or should I say rusting in the body. What are the things that are promoting inflammation and oxidation in the body? That is where we really need to be focusing on, because that's the fire. That's the fire that we need to be quelching or subsiding, instead of worrying about cholesterol levels, which again, the science does not back that. The
Well, you create a good segue, because there is no question that levels of LDL and cholesterol are higher in diseased vascular tissue and in someone who has a heart attack. But there's also a heck of a lot more fire trucks at a fire than there is just riding around the street normally. So the point is, if you believe what we're saying about repairing damaged cells and tissue in their cells, then obviously if you have inflammation and heart disease and vessel disease, that's where you're going to find most of the cholesterol and the LDL, because it's there doing its very best to keep you alive by repairing that damaged tissue.
Especially within the vessels of the cardiovascular system. So the reason why a lot of people are building up plaque within the vessel is because there's all of that inflammation that is causing tears within the small vessels. And when those tears are there, your body's like, oh my God, I've got to save you from your crazy self. And so it sends out the little cholesterol trucks to put that salve over it, you know, just like mama does when you act crazy. You know, you start messing up your skin, mama will put some Vaseline. Vaseline, not a good thing. I'm just saying that that's what people do sometimes, right? Okay. But, you know, there's that desire to put that salve, not only to cool things down, but also to make sure that the red blood cells don't get hooked on those tears that have been caused within the inside of the cardiovascular vessels. So always ask yourself the question, why is the body producing extra amounts of cholesterol? And go down that rabbit hole as opposed to artificially trying to lower the cholesterol.
Okay, I'm the young lady who you talk with about it. Those are my labs. So I thanks for inviting me as well. So I want to know, what do I do to counter that? Because it's never been considered an issue. So I want to be able to address it in a natural way and not medication, because I'm anti-medications as much as I possibly can be.
So are you the one with the low cholesterol labs or the high cholesterol labs?
The odd ones that you took the picture of and sent to.
Yes.
So I was waiting for this tonight here.
Awesome. So now we're looking at, why would someone have low cholesterol? Okay. Because always ask yourself the question, why is this occurring? So there are a lot of different reasons why you could possibly have low cholesterol. Number one, the first thing that I did was I asked you what? Do you remember what I asked you?
Did I eat certain things?
Yes. What are some of the things that I asked you if you were eating?
You asked me, did I eat a lot of bread? Did I eat a lot of rice? Did I eat eggs? Did I like avocados and proteins? I'm trying to think of what else we talked about.
Yeah, so we were looking at two different things. We were looking, number one, if you're getting good sources of cholesterol, that was one thing. And then we're looking on the flip side of it, which Dr. Lewis was talking about, which is, what are things that would create the inflammation and the oxidation that would start to deplete your cholesterol levels. And then the third thing, if you remember, that I said for us to look at, is whether or not you're actually breaking down your fats effectively to be able to utilize, or should I say, to produce the cholesterol. And there was one marker that we looked at. You remember what that marker was that I said was significant, that gave us a good aha clue?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember, because
you said you started to take vitamin D, and you're taking like
I do have vitamin D, yes.
And your vitamin D is not increasing.
No.
So Dr. Thomas, I'm going to pass the hot potato to you again because we've lined it up. So take the ball home.
Well, that's low cholesterol is something I've had probably a half dozen clients with where it was 100 or below, and it's been a challenge. But one of the things I look at is, do you have a gallbladder?
Yes.
Is your okay? Good. Is your gut working well? Do you have gut distress, bloating, constipation,
No.
diarrhea, something like that? Okay.
No.
Then you're a challenge. Okay. I almost never use this as I think it's a cop out, that maybe there's some genetic predisposition to production, but then I don't want to default there yet. What about liver enzymes? If the liver is not functioning at 100%, we look at the alkaline phosphatase, the ALT, AST levels, and
So
see if they are.
Those were okay for her. Those were,
Yeah.
I think they were like 20, was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, the only thing we really had in a critical range was those HDLs and
Yeah.
LDLs.
Because those were all low.
Yeah,
And so what
low.
we were saying is that we were looking at your ability to break down your fats effectively.
Right.
Mhm. So
I mean,
so
all I can
Dr.
tell you,
Lewis, go ahead.
yeah, I would like to see the whole constellation of labs, not just the lipids. But I can tell you, we had a lady on our webinar. I met her at the Children's Health Defense, and her son was supposedly born with all kinds of developmental issues. And now at the age of 13, he's perfectly normal and achieving very well. And this lady reached out to pretty much every functional pediatric specialist, Dr. Rosnyal, I'm trying to remember the one that got involved with Dr. Bradstreet, brilliant doctors. And one of the things she did for her son, who had a total cholesterol level of below 100, was to really increase egg intake. And there's a supplement called Sonic Cholesterol. And what's really interesting about that supplement, it's pure cholesterol, and it lists on the label all the conditions that if you up your cholesterol will become fixed: inflammation, mood disorders, so on and so forth. And she reported that when she put her child on Sonic Cholesterol, all these things resolved. Now, I also think that she showed through lab testing that her total cholesterol numbers, LDL and HDL, also went up. But I will tell you, I will scratch my head over knowing exactly why, when you have a gallbladder, when your digestion is working well, when you're eating a higher fat, higher cholesterol diet, and your total cholesterol is still low, I will have to tell you, it's a bit of a conundrum to me that I don't have an exact answer for. But I have seen solutions with just going to a very high level of fatty cholesterol containing foods.
So one of
Okay.
the things that I suggested also is to look at your body's ability to break down the fats effectively, to emulsify the fats effectively. So some of the things that will help that are things that help you to produce bile or actually give you the bile. So there are products like ox bile, but ox bile can be very, very strong, so I don't really start off with ox bile, if truth be told. Start off with something more general, like food enzymes, and food enzymes that have a higher concentration of lipase. And lipase is the enzyme that is specifically geared towards breaking down fats. And then there's also a product that I use that I like, that I found very successful, which is called Beta Plus, because it helps you to, again, break down the fats. And the reason why I say to look at that and not just simply upping your cholesterol level is because you have other fat-soluble vitamins that are crucial, like vitamin D. Remember, you were saying that your vitamin D levels, so if your vitamin D levels are low, then it is very likely that other fat-soluble vitamins are low, such as your A and your E. And these are very important, your A, D, E vitamins. D is also a hormone, but in any case, these are very crucial for your immune system, right? So it's very important that you are able to acquire and absorb and utilize these fat-soluble vitamins. And you're not going to be able to utilize those if your body is not able to break down fats and emulsify fats and absorb fats effectively. So those are some things to consider.
Okay. So you said food enzymes, lipase.
Lipase, and also something that's called beta plus, and to look for things that will produce bile, B-I-L-E. So sometimes what happens is that you would benefit from doing like what's called a liver gallbladder flush. Because sometimes the reason why you're not able to break down your fats effectively is because there's a backing up in the system, clogged, and your body is not able to release the bile effectively into your colon, so that you're able to break down, into your small intestine, so that you're able to break down the fats. So if you're not able to release that bile effectively, then that bile is not there to be able to break down your fats. So it doesn't make a difference if you ate like 50 eggs, it wouldn't make a difference if you don't have bile to be able to break down your fats effectively.
Okay, so where would I find these things though? The that you say that helps do that.
So you can, number one, you can look on our website on sankofahealing.com, and under there it says full
under
script.
What's the website again?
Sankofa Healing, that's my website, sankofahealing.com. Okay, and when you go under resources, you'll see it says full script, which is where you can buy different products. Or you can just go into your health food store and say, you know what, I need something to help me to break down my fat. Okay. Or to look up to do a liver cleanse, a liver gallbladder cleanse. And so the liver gallbladder cleanse that I really like doing is with Dr. Schultz. If you go to HerbDoc, HERBDoc.herbdoc.com, you can get what's called a liver gallbladder cleanse to be able to flush out your liver gallbladder. And by doing so, hopefully you'll be able to activate or clear the pathways for your body to release bile more effectively.
Okay.
A quick question. What's the color of your stool?
It's brown.
Okay. All right. So that gives me more leaning towards doing the food enzymes, the lipase.
Okay. And I can get that as well from the health food store?
Yeah, you can get, so usually, but the thing is, usually with health food stores, they'll give you like general food enzymes. So if you need something more specific, which I'm talking to you about, which is lipase.
Right.
You can reach out to me if you're not able to get it in your health food store.
Okay.
All righty.
I'll do that.
All righty. Okay. Who's got another question? This is fun. Just love doing this. Yay!
That was very informative. Thank you so much.
Good. Yay. Sade.
Hi, how are you?
I probably mutilated your name, so I'm
No, you had it. You had it right.
Okay.
I kind of have a two-part question. I probably start off with the simpler one for myself, and then I'll ask about my daughter. I've been having issues. Well, I'm not taking care of myself, so I already know the main issue of that. But I've been having issues as of recent with severe anemia, to the point of constantly being told that I'll need blood transfusions, and I've been holding off on that. I've tried iron infusion, which I had a terrible anaphylactic reaction to, so never for that. And I'm trying to figure out how I can avoid having to go through possibly needing.
love this question. Love this question. Now it's a two-part question.
Yes.
In the sense that a lot of times when people are anemic, the practitioner will immediately go to, oh, we need to give you more iron. But remember what I said to you. God don't make no mistake. Okay, that's first thing. You got to believe that God has designed you with a divine design. So the question I always say is, why are the iron levels low? So now there are a couple of different possibilities. One is, do you have heavy menstrual cycles?
Yeah.
So that's one thing to look at, because that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Meaning, it doesn't make a difference if you're pouring water in the bucket if there's a hole in the bucket.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, one of the reasons why men and women in particular will have low iron is because they're having heavy menstrual cycles. And that is not good. You really need to address that whole issue. So that's one thing. Then the second thing to look at is whether or not they have done a lab for ferritin.
Okay.
Now, I know that the lab panel that was done with the AME church, the health fair that I went to this weekend, they did have ferritin. So now the reason why this is important is because a lot of times what the body will do is that it will take the iron and it'll put it in the warehouse. And the warehouse is called ferritin. And you may say, well, why would the body do that? Well, the body does that a lot of times if there's some kind of chronic infection going on in the background, whether it be viral or bacterial. So things like candida, yeast infections. So that's another question. Look at your white blood cells. Are your white blood cells low? Is your ferritin high? And if that's the case, then what you're looking at is your body again is trying to save you from itself, because viruses and bacteria, they replicate like crazy when iron is there. They use iron as their power source. Okay. So your body is going to put that away, hide it, try to hide it if you have some kind of chronic infection going on. And a lot of times women will have like chronic yeast infections, that is going on in the background, and it'll like flare up all of a sudden, but they're constantly getting flare-ups. But they're like, oh, well, I'll take the Monistat, and then, it's gotten to the point where you take like the little Monistat pill. It's like one day and it's like, woo, knock it out. It's like, okay. But nobody, because Mr. Candida, he is still there. He's just not in rare form, like crowd waiting for something to go all crazy. So that is another thing.
Dr. Michelle.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Michelle, I'm
Dr.
back.
Lewis, you're back with us. Yay.
Yeah, it was a quickie. But the other thing is when the ferritin is low and the iron is low, and a hematologist will say you have anemia.
Yeah.
But I've often seen that the real cause of it is just malabsorption. It's hard
thing.
to, when your gut, like if you eat meat or that has iron, obviously a lot of iron, and you don't have strong acid, and you're not breaking that protein down well and releasing the iron, then you can have a profile that looks like anemia, but it's just malabsorption syndrome. That's all it is.
So you want to see if you're producing enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach to be able to break down the proteins effectively. And that's critical, not only in terms of breaking down the protein and helping you to absorb your iron. All of your heavier metals are absorbed with the help of the hydrochloric acid. So as Dr. Lewis is saying, if you have low levels of hydrochloric acid, so sometimes the way that would present is like indigestion or burping when you eat, sometimes you'll see that. But a lot of times you'll notice it's because of those two markers where you have the low ferritin and you have the low iron.
I think it's really important to state that the most important part of health is you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. So it's really important to not marginalize even the mildest gut symptoms.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you have any kind of symptom related to gut, it means you're already far down the continuum of gut dysbiosis. So obvious symptoms don't manifest until you're way down the line. So don't like I said, don't marginalize, don't poo-poo even the slightest gut issue. Address it. Because, you know, I have people complain to me every day that they're taking too many supplements, okay? And they want guidance. So I say, look, the most important supplements you can take are those that help you digest better. So it's probiotics, but it's all the different things that contribute to the ecology to make the probiotics flourish. There's a program that's developed at the University of Wisconsin, and I have a beautiful chart that I'm going to send Dr. Gamble, even though I'm not going to send her the cholesterol chart, just kidding. It's called the 4 R's. Don't ask me what the R's are. 4 R's are
repair, restore,
repair, reinoculate,
inoculate,
all
remove,
these different things.
remove.
Right.
It's actually 5 R's now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All I can tell you about that is, like, if you took every supplement and every nutrient on that list, it would drive you crazy. That's why you can get some health guidance to find out which one's probably the top of the pecking order. But the thing is, just taking a probiotic often will not work, because if your gut's a little bit out of whack, the ecosystem or the ecology for the gut isn't conducive for the probiotics. So if you're just taking a probiotic, it's a waste of money. It's really important to work on the ecology as well as just giving a probiotic.
That makes sense.
One of the things to consider when you're looking at the digestive system is to remember that you have to start from the top down. A lot of people think it's all sexy to do the probiotics, then, you know, that's the new craze. Oh, probiotics. No, start from the top down. You know, so I talk to people, first it's in the mind, you know, where are you mentally when you're sitting down to eat? And we underestimate the importance of shifting energetically into a calm state before we start eating. And then you go into chew. And then you go, and you just work your way down, you know. So going back to that stomach with the production of the hydrochloric acid, you know, a lot of times people will, it's interesting that a lot of vegetarians that I found, they shifted into vegetarianism because they got disturbances when they were eating meat. And instead of asking themselves, well, why is it difficult for me to eat meat? They said, oh, well, I'm just going to become vegetarian. Now, I don't have anything wrong with being vegetarian. That's not what I'm saying. Right. What I'm saying is to always ask yourself why. And so one of the things that you can do is start to use with your food apple cider vinegar. So before you actually eat, you know, especially if you know you're going to eat a high protein meal, to put in like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with some water. Or what I love to do is use my apple cider vinegar to make my dressings. You know, so I always eat my salad before I eat my food, and I'll use apple cider vinegar in making my dressing. And so then you're starting to acidify the stomach, you know, so that's one thing. And then there are also different herbs that you can use to help to increase the body's ability to create the hydrochloric acid to begin with. And these are known as bitters. So your bitter herbs, you know, so like in the West Indies, and Carla probably knows what I'm talking about, we talk about drinking bitters. Not, you know.
I have some here.
There you go. There you go. So
I haven't done it.
Will help your body to start to produce the hydrochloric acid more effectively for itself. So you'll notice that in the West Indies, we'll drink bitters, right? Exactly. You know, and those bitter herbs will help to prime the pump to produce the hydrochloric acid. And like I said, there are alternatives. And then if you really have issues, then, you know, we go to stronger and stronger things, you know. So there are things like taking HCl, but again, you need to do that under the direction of somebody so that you don't mess yourself up. But
Got it.
those are some things to consider. So to pull it all together, what we were saying is, again, we're stressing again in this case, the importance of absorption. So the last one we were talking about whether or not the body is absorbing the fats properly, breaking down the fats properly to be able to produce the cholesterol. In this particular case, we're talking about iron. So it's not about popping 50 million iron supplements, which will constipate the bejeebies out of you. I'm just gonna say that. Okay.
325 milligram.
Scary
Yeah.
stuff. But to look at, number one, why is the iron low? Okay. Is it a matter of a chronic infection? Is it a matter that we're just losing a lot of iron through blood loss, through, exacerbated menstrual cycles? Or is it a matter that we're not absorbing our iron effectively? Or is it a matter that we're not getting enough iron in our foods? All of these are possible things to look at, as opposed to just popping iron supplements, which in many situations can actually make things worse. So just something to consider.
So my second question is where it becomes a little of a stumper.
Okay.
My daughter had an awful pregnancy, awful traumatic delivery. She was born at 33.2 weeks, emergency C-section. She was fine when she was born, bubble CPAP, opco scores were fine. I wasn't able to breastfeed, so even though I said donor milk, they gave her, this was at Lenox Hill, they gave her Similac formula. 6 hours later, she ended up on a vent. So her protein and ammonia levels were near the 700s. They thought she had a urea cycle disorder. They checked genetically at Mount Sinai. She didn't. However, her whole life has been a whole downward spiral developmentally from that event. Plus, vaccinating her, I noticed a lot of changes. I stopped DTaP, MMR. She was like completely different within like a matter of 2 weeks. Blank staring. They said it was benign myoclonus, all these things. Diagnosed her with autism. She is completely nonverbal. We use AAC device, but it's not very successful. She cannot, I don't want to say she can't. I feel like deep down inside, she can have the ability. It's just hard for her to physically do. Like, she can't indicate her needs or anything like that. So I've always thought that it was something with her liver, even though it didn't show it genetically. And I explained to them for the last 2.5 years, her ammonia levels were always, after that whole incident of her being on a vent, it was always in the hundreds. And I said, that's not normal, and that's damaging her brain. And metabolic was like stumped, because they're like, we know it's not the typical genetic, but we don't have an answer. Maybe hers is just higher than usual. I said, regardless if it's slightly higher, it's still impacting her brain. The average person who would have a genetic issue at 100, you would see major concern on your end in terms of protocol and hospitalizing them. So I'm like, why aren't you concerned with her blank staring, her constant tremors, vomiting while eating, all of those things? I did diet change because she was protein restricted and her ammonia was still high. She was on Kate Farms because she couldn't eat and swallow properly. She was at one point on an NG tube. She's not anymore. Endless amount of therapy. And
how old is she now?
She just turned 3 in November.
Okay.
So
now
I know
this
herbs
maternal health is a passion of Dr. Lewis and mine. Dr. Lewis, I'm going to pass the hot potato to you first.
Well, the first thing we all have to recognize is that the entire medical system should just resign in shame over these vaccine schedules and what they're doing to our children. Yes. And I'm not saying the vaccine is the whole thing, but see, what they're doing is they're giving the child an infection. And they're giving the child multiple infections.
Right.
And like with a premature baby, that immune system is more compromised than a full-term baby. And they just treat them all the same. They don't consider the health of the mom. They don't consider the health of the dad. They don't consider the pregnancy, anything like that. It's just really sad. I really feel for you, my dear. And I just got back from the MedMaps conference which is the autism group. And, there are 31 million nonverbal autistic children in the world now.
Wow.
31 million. We know how to make a child verbal, but it's ridiculously expensive. But, we've just got to go to first principles and work on some basic things. So high ammonia, correct? So
yeah.
What produces ammonia? Once again, the most classic thing that produces ammonia is in the gut, an organism called Helicobacter pylori. Nobel Prize in 2005 for the proof of the association between that organism and stomach ulcers. But see, this organism releases an enzyme that converts nitrogen compounds in the gut to ammonia, because most pathogens cannot withstand the strong acid in the gut. So what it does, it creates a microenvironment of low acid. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg for this poor, toddler. But that could be something to look at. Oxytocin is something that has a positive effect on autistic brains. You can write to me and I'll send you some literature on that.
Okay.
Chlorine dioxide is an antiviral that's been shown to be helpful in autism. Things like immunoglobulins. I worked with children back in my Boston days 15, 20 years ago with pandas, which is a really severe form of brain dysfunction that, the child can be going along fine and dandy, then all of a sudden erupt into violent behavior. Did your male or female and the name of your child?
Yeah, it's Leilani and she's female.
Leilani, did I get it close?
Yeah, it's close.
And so did she have strep infection at any point in her early life?
So during the emergency C-section, she caught an infection because I caught an infection while they was doing the C-section. I ended up almost dying from sepsis because of fluid buildup I had around my uterus. So during that process, they said she had an infection and they was treating her with a bunch of antibiotics while she was on the vent. And
destroying any gut flora that was passed on from you at the
yeah,
same time, and that's why we probably have the ammonia. So what I would do is let's do some probiotics. Probably the best one in the world for a young child with like that is called the freeze-dried Bravo. Write to me and I'll tell you about it.
okay.
The other thing is different immunoglobulins that are available. Back in the day, we were treating these pandas kids with IVIG infusion, so plasma from donors was $20,000 every 9 months, and they would get better for 9 months and then go back. But now we have immunoglobulins you can take for $100 a month in pill form, and I've had some really good success with those as well. But that's just my off the cuff what might be causing ammonia. Some of the things we might be able to do to help the brain function better, calm the brain down, but also work on getting to the root of some of the, a vaccine is an infection.
Right. And the only thing I've given thus far from last year is the Ready Sorb, the liposol glufa, I can't pronounce that. The liposol glutathione. Yes, that. Omega, things like that.
You're on the right track. NAC, things of that nature. Yeah. But those are more hopefully managing symptomatic type stuff where you need to go more upstream. And I'm gonna make one more comment to the group before we lose anybody. I've only known Dr. Michelle now for about 3 months or 4 months. And I work with a lot of medical doctors and I've been working with them for a long time.
Yes.
She is at the top. She's at the top of her game, functional and integrative and root cause medicine. And everybody should just recognize that you have an absolute gem, as a health advisor to this group. So just recognize that there are very few of her skill.
Yes.
Very few. So with that, I'll
Thank
pass
you
the torch
so much.
back to Dr. Michelle.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis.
No
And
need for thanks. No need for thanks. I'm just telling the truth. I'm a truth teller, Dr. Michelle.
well, it is mutual. I have only known Dr. Lewis for a short period of time, but I'm telling you, everything that comes across now, I reach out to him. I want to get his input because he is a wealth of knowledge, as you can see the short time that we spent today. Oh, you, hi. Oh my goodness.
Say hi.
Great. And so what the biggest thing that I want to share with you guys today is to continue to share share this with your family and friends, and to go to that page that I shared with you guys for the Doctors Are In, so that you can get so that you can communicate with Dr. Lewis and with myself, so that we can give you more resources. Sade, one of the things that you may want to consider is whoever your health practitioner is, if you have a good relationship.
Dr. Pavetsky, we started just seeing last year,
Okay.
lucky.
So if you guys have a good relationship with them, ask them to do a comprehensive stool analysis that gives you an insight into the metabolites, as well as the culture with regards to whether or not, there are high levels of different forms of bacterial overgrowth in certain things.
Right.
And whether or not the levels of the quote unquote good bacteria are where they need to be. So there's certain comprehensive stool panels that will give you the metabolites and give you all of that kind of information.
It's funny because prior to Dr. Pavetsky, I had asked her GI at unfortunately Mount Sinai and Columbia, and their initial solution to all of this, which I told them they're insane, was just have her on Miralax, Rifaximin, Lactulose, and what am I missing? Senna, and she'll be fine. And I'm like,
oh gosh, poor baby. Oh,
that
poor baby.
doesn't make sense.
No.
Sounds Greek to me, but what I would do that you can do for almost nothing is start with like a teaspoon a day of different fermented foods, and then mash up some beans. Just regular baked beans are very high in what are called butyrates, which are
without the sugar, not all the sugar stuff now, not those
right.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah, no, just regular dry beans that I could cook myself. Yeah.
Yep. And they have the basically they have the trying to think of the right way without saying the wrong thing, but really the caviar for the microbiome.
Yeah. So it's your prebiotics. Yeah, those will give you your prebiotics, your fibers, your inulin, and things of that nature that are necessary for your probiotics to be able to eat and be healthy. And so that's why things like doing your ferments, and you can easily ferment. I love doing fermentates, but take it slow. Do not do a lot at one time.
Send me some of those ferments.
We're gonna send you the recipes. I think we have. That is what I'm going to ask. Karen was on with us. I'm going to ask Karen to do one of the ferments with us for our next Fun Food Friday. So we do things like yamgurt and kimchi and all of those different things. So I'm going to ask Karen to do a special one with fermented foods for our Fun Food Friday. Okay. Awesome. Well, believe it or not, the time has flown by, and I want everybody to go to bed, get that wonderful rest, get those Z's in, because you cannot have good health without sleep, right? In any case, I thank you all for joining us here on the Doctors Are In. If we were not able to get to your question, come on back next month or send us in your questions or send us an email. Call us up on the phone, whatever it is, we are here to serve you. We look forward to seeing you next month. Until then, peace and blessings.